I completed Adventures of Captain Phobian, Against All Flags, Masters of Ballantrue. Whenever I finished a picture or drew a big paycheck, I flew to Jamaica and enlarged the Errol Flynn estates. I was bound to try to salvage something from my earnings before people, friends, wives, mistresses, courts took it away from me. I knew that if I didn't do this soon, I'd be on the bum again. I didn't know at this time how many millions I had made, or just where it had gone. I knew that I owned precious little in the way of real property, stocks, or anything else that would be of help in any emergency. I had a couple of valuable paintings stashed away, but mostly the cash was drawn from me by an unending retinue of lawyers, agents, servants, aides, flunkies, and females. When I landed at the Kensington airport, my custom was to hire a limousine to drive me across the island to where Boston Estate now ran along the coast for about 2 miles. It was characterized by a blue fence. Wherever the blue fence ran within my property, and one or two signs along the way said Errol Flynn Estates. Back in America, little was known of my life in Jamaica or my interest in the island. Columnists merely reported from time to time that I was on my way there, or had returned from there, or that a wife, or perhaps a young lady, went with me. Once I arrived, there I lapsed into a completely different life. It was a reversion to my New Guinea days. The native Jamaicans reminded me of the brown-skinned Melanesans, though there was great differences as to personality, education, and literacy. I was fascinated by the Jamaican language, a derivation, a der- derivation, a derivation of the English tongue, with its odd and colorful idiom. I cocked my ear to hear the special language that the Jamaicans spoke among themselves when they didn't want a white man, Yankee or English, to understand them. They took the traditional English, and by shifting the beat of pronunciation, they produced a different tongue which sounded a bit like Gaelic. I cut an imperial figure on the north shore of Jamaica. I formed certain habits during the periods of 1 to 3 months that I stayed there. Each day a ride over my ranch on horseback, or a walk on foot, watching the copra grow, as I had watched it in New Guinea. Then, perhaps a rafting trip down the Rio Grande. You go down rapids on bamboo rafts, pulled by a fleet Jamaican. As you glide down this river, you look up on the other side to the most magnificent skyline of hills that God or nature has created. This was a 4-hour jaunt in which you picnicked along the way. You swam in the river, or you took along your skin diving equipment and went down 30 or 40 feet looking for the big snook. Most snooks are 12 or 14 inches long. In my river, they can come to 40 inches. Then perhaps a trip in my motor boat around Navy Island or down the coast. At night, a stroll in the marketplace of Port Antonio. This is a town of 11,000. You get the feeling you have gone back 150 years. The houses are built in an early English style. The more prosperous swains have bicycles, and in the evening a boy and girl court by riding double on a bicycle along the main street. Everywhere there is rum and calypso music. I had not been there long when a band of calypso musicians asked if they could become my band and bear my name. They dubbed themselves Errol Flynn's Swamp Boys, and they play all over the north of Jamaica. There is the beauty of Jamaican females. Jamaica Royal, she is Chinese and Negro, rare and beautiful. Jamaican Brown is the predominant female of the island, of middling bronze color. There is Black Ebony Daughter, and there is English style White Woman. And there are a few Chinese and a few others. East Indian mingled with Jamaican, altogether a colorful, a diverse people. And those songs. Brown skinned girl, go home and mean baby. Brown skinned girl, go home and mean baby. Your daddy gone on a sailing ship. And if him don't come back, throw away the damn baby. The Jamaicans live in small one-room huts in the hills, in the towns, and along the shores, and most of all, they live in fear of the hurricane season. I decided that I must make a moving picture of the sea world which surrounded Jamaica. The film came to be known as The Cruise of the Zaka, and in making it, I made some enemies in Jamaica. I had captured 3 crocodiles in the Savannah Lamar, an area of clear water along Jamaica's shores. I took them on board the Zaka over to famous Doctor's Cave at Montego Bay, where the underwater scenery is beautiful. I had in mind making this picture for my own interest, an item just off the cuff, for amusement, and perhaps even profit. I wanted to record the beauty of marine life on film. For a week, while my cameraman ground away, I kept the crocs on board, tied up. It wasn't easy on them. They weren't eating much. They were in the sun, and they were on call occasionally as I needed them in some underwater wrestling scene. The reptile's jaws were sewed up with wire. That was a piece of hem stitching that I didn't want to come apart. We undid the wire when they ate, but then quickly reshut their snouts, and so I was able to work with them. Once, one of the creatures gave me a nasty cut across the leg with his tail. I was underwater with him at the time. I came up bleeding, and I swam for the side of the Zaka as fast as I could. During all this time, we were within sight of the vacationers who came to Montego Bay. We could see the bathers on the beach, and they didn't know that on board my ship were these ferocious captive sea lizards. A storm broke. The crocodiles got loose, and though their dangerous jaws were still wired, they started threshing around the deck. The Zaka rocked at her anchor. The squall leaned the boat far over, and all hands took to the rigging, for the crocs were after us. A wave came, caught one, and he went over the side. We turned on the 2 remaining ones. While they snapped at our heels, we tried to relasso them. Then, as the storm settled, the 2 crocs went over the side. Word went out that they were free, in Doctor's Cave. Like obliging fellows, the crocs stayed in the cave, their heads popping out of the water, to the consternation of the people on shore. Mr. Fletcher, a Montego Bay leader, and a crowd of business colleagues descended on me like a school of barracuda. "We'll sue you, Flynn. Get those things out of our waters. You and they, get out. You want to destroy our business? Let word of this get to New York, and who will come here? Crocodiles at a resort." We got the 2 crocs out of the water, itself a miracle of recovery, shot up the sails of the Zaka, and got out of Montego Bay. I returned to Port Antonio, deciding that back in home waters, I would work on the far or the sea side of Navy Island. On the far or I returned to Port Antonio, deciding that back in home waters, I would work on the far or sea side of Navy Island. With a diving outfit and a cameraman, I would go down there and complete the work begun at Doctor's Cave. But the crocs were sluggish, worn out, perhaps even dying, and when they moved, they showed no life, no savagery. I couldn't think of a thing to get them to look alive. I tried poking them, pulling them on a wire. I injected them with adrenaline and digitalis. Nothing helped. I was fretful, because one important scene had to be shot, a death scene in which I killed one of them with a knife. I needed some opposition, but the crocs were fed up with the whole deal. I remembered what I had seen years before when a frog in a certain picture had to jump. The frog was supposed to jump 6 feet, but wouldn't go more than 6 inches. Everybody went mad. The frog was holding up the picture, but an ingenious prop man got an idea. He located an eye syringe, put some ammonia in it, and he stuck it up the frog's rectum at the right time. It then took the longest jump ever made by a frog, going about 40 feet high, almost out of our studio, almost over to Paramount. And of course, we didn't get the shot. But it was a matchless performance. Mark Twain could have made a wonderful bet on him. I got the necessary materials, the syringe and the ammonia, and I prepared to press this thing to a finish, wherever it led. My cameraman went underwater. I had another man on deck. I put the crocodile where I wanted him. I got into the water, in position. Camera. Okay, let him have it. My assistant stuck the syringe full of ammonia up the reptile's fanny, and my God, he looked like a torpedo that goes mad and comes back and sinks the submarine that sent it. The croc came around, gave me a good cut with his tail, went down, zoomed up, bumped into the cameraman, knocked out the equipment, went stark raving mad under the Zaka and scrambled out to sea. We never did get the shot. For a while, I kept the other reptile in an aquarium I built at Navy Island. The Cruise of the Zaka was a thoughtful little picture. People still talk about this film. They don't ask me about Robin Hood. They ask about The Cruise of the Zaka. It had tremendous public interest. I sold it to Warner's, idiot that I was, for practically nothing. This film, in color, is still playing. There was only one heartbreaking incident in connection with it. There was 1/200,000th of an inch aperture in the camera that took some beautiful underwater shots. And it destroyed about 5,000 feet of film. That minute disorder became magnified so that on the screen a diagonal yellow streak 3 feet wide ran through the film. To this day, I'm a little chary of finding myself in the Montego Bay district. Hotel proprietors there feel that I am not good for business. That is why, when I go over there to visit Noel Coward, Blanche Blackwell, and other pals, I usually make the trip after twilight.